I knew, for lack of a better word, I couldn't be too black.
Ryan Clark has broken his silence on ESPN, and on the Pivot podcast, he came close to accusing the network of racial bias in how it treated him. Finally opening up after being fired stunningly, ESPN let him go mid-broadcast, informing him during a commercial break while the show was still live. The situation turned messy fast, with reactions pouring in from across sports media. Emmanuel Acho was one of the loudest voices in it all, jumping into the story to defend Clark and call out ESPN's handling of the firing.
Executives are cowards. That is my reaction. Executives are cowards. Is cowardly. On NFL Live. NFL Live, a show that's for the last 2 years won back-to-back Emmy Awards for best daily sports show. And you're going to fire an anchor of that show? No, to me, it is cowardly to fire a man in the midst of him working for a show that he has built up to Emmy level and Emmy quality.
And honestly, this caught me off guard. Several people at ESPN who work on the NFL show started calling out Emmanuel Acho, accusing him of trying to hype up Ryan Clark while dismissing the show altogether, almost like it meant nothing. Let's take a look at that clip right now.
Build was Mark Malone, myself, Mike Golick, and Merrill Hodge. And not only did we build it, it went from NFL Tonight the first time,
right,
changed it to NFL Live. That shit was built long before it. All we did was heat up the seat for somebody else to come and fill it. Or should I say, try to fill it. NFL Live does a nice job when they're sticking to football and when they're talking sports. Does a nice job. At any time, I'll put this out there, anytime you want to get me and then Mark Schlereth comes along, phenomenal. Add Darren Woodson and Eric Allen to it. Phenomenal. Then Mark Malone's contract was up. He went, bring in Trey Wingo. Phenomenal host. NFL Live was the when you say built it, you're trying to tell me that it was that we didn't build the foundation on sand. We built that motherfucker on steel and concrete. That doesn't mean other people weren't good and doesn't mean they're not good now. But built it? Your ass. Give me a break. Give me a break. It's not even the comparison is almost embarrassing that I have to sit up here and do this. And you know I don't address this shit, Segs. I just don't, because this is comical, embarrassing, hyperbolic bullshit.
Then we saw Stephen A. Smith weigh in on the situation too. He seemed to be admitting, in his own way, that he's finally realized just how little influence he actually has at ESPN, to the point where he basically said, "I wish I could have done more, but there's nothing I can do."
And he's not somebody that I just loved working with. He's somebody that I love, period. That I will always be here for. In every way, shape, form imaginable that I can. I just wish that I could have been in enough of an influential or powerful position to prevent his exit from happening.
Now, here's my take on this. The way ESPN let go of Stephen A. Smith's close friend, Ryan Clark, I think it also served as a message to Stephen A. himself. Almost like ESPN was saying, you don't call the shots here, you don't control this. And they made it clear that no matter how much money they've put into these contracts, that doesn't mean you own any part of this company or hold real power when decisions get made behind closed doors. And in case you weren't aware, ESPN just locked in a major NFL deal. You can see it right here in this article. ESPN lays off on-air talent after $3 billion NFL deal. So now, Ryan Clark is finally speaking out for the first time on his own platform, the Pivot podcast. And I want to highlight what he had to say, because he's essentially accusing ESPN of racial bias, claiming he felt like he had to suppress parts of his identity while working there. Let's check out that clip right now.
You know, man, like this show, for 3 years, bro, we never shied away from any topic.
Right.
We never shied away from tackling anything. We did this year because I knew I couldn't have no beef. I knew I couldn't respond to disrespect, right? I knew, for lack of a better word, I couldn't be too black. What makes me sad is, even in trying to adjust to be at least more of what certain people wanted, they still fired me. When I go home, and this kid, you know, from the West Bank is like so accepted in New Orleans now. Like I wouldn't change that. You know, never. You know, like all I ever wanted to do was be accepted. You know, and want it. So yeah, like that, I wouldn't change. You know, if you ask me, probably the first like Monday of football, when all my friends get to do something like we did, like super special together, yeah, I'd probably change it. You know, I'd probably work harder to like be who they wanted me to be, or.
So that's essentially what Ryan Clark said when he called out ESPN, talking about his blackness and how he felt he had to hold himself back. And in the end, that didn't even save his job. They fired him anyway. So really, he's saying all of that restraint was for nothing. And honestly, this is exactly why, if you're working for a company and you feel like you constantly have to hold yourself back, that's a red flag. In my opinion, Ryan Clark should have already been laying the groundwork to leave ESPN. He should have been doing what Stephen A. Smith did. He should have followed the Pat McAfee route. Because that's exactly what Stephen A. Smith did. He followed Pat McAfee's blueprint, to the point where Stephen A. openly credited McAfee for showing him the way, for helping him realize that building leverage through your own platform is what actually matters now, especially with how these big companies evaluate you as an asset. So once Pat McAfee signed his deal with ESPN and Stephen A. realized McAfee was being paid more than he was at the time, that's when he said, all right, I need to start building my own thing. He started doing press runs, going on shows like The Breakfast Club, and talking about how he was laying the groundwork because he knew his own contract was coming up for renewal within the next year or two. He talked about starting his own podcast, and now, as we can see, he's got multiple podcasts and a radio show through a deal he worked out with Sirius XM under the Mad Dog Sports radio channel. On top of that, he eventually launched his own production company too. At the end of the day, Stephen A. recognized this was the new wave, and that's exactly why he holds so much leverage while still working at ESPN, which is the reason he was able to re-sign his contract on his own terms. Ryan Clark never did that. Instead, he made himself look like an easily replaceable asset, and that's exactly what ESPN did. They replaced him. All while he says he was holding back who he really was just to keep that job. And again, that's Ryan Clark's own words, not mine. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below.